One thing has become quite clear the last couple of years, the last couple of months, the last couple of weeks, and it is that the Guillemot family is running Ubisoft into the ground. You can look to this company about a decade ago: Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Watch Dogs, Splinter Cell, The Crew, and so on and so forth. These franchises were still fresh, still innovative, and still at the top of their game. But in recent years, these franchises have fallen on hard times. Some of them don't even have any new entries. Some of them were so badly mishandled that they are completely dead at this point. And that is the modern Ubisoft. That is what has happened to a lot of these games. That's what also has happened to a lot of these studios in which the top talent have run for the doors. And a lot of that needs to be blamed on the Guillemot family because of the games that they've been making and the fact that they've just continued to chase trends and make really bad decisions. And this was a report coming earlier this year from Tom Henderson, From Low Morale to Internal Tensions Inside Ubisoft, in which he outlines that in recent years there's been one thing that you can probably count on with a Ubisoft game. It's inevitable delay. It's a frustration that's been felt publicly and internally, mostly boiling down to unrealistic internal deadlines and poor management. And we also had a different report, this time coming from Jeff Grubb, and this was in 2023, in which he said that Ubisoft acquisition was laughed at by other companies. And he went on to say that Ubisoft definitely already did the rounds proposing acquisitions and mergers with other similar companies, and it mostly got laughed at. It's just too unwieldy. Its strength was its distributed development structure, and now that's an albatross. And look, Ubisoft is a massive company, and it is very unattractive to have 20,000 employees and 40 studios, because a lot of these companies know if they take on that weight, many of these employees are going to be fired. That's negative PR that they just do not want to deal with. And also these franchises, a lot of them have already been milked dry, so the potential for Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, a lot of these companies just don't see it as being worth it. And that is a major problem that Ubisoft faces right now. And look, they are continuing to double down. There's 10 new Assassin's Creed games coming in 5 years. Some of them we know about. Obviously, Assassin's Creed Shadows comes in early 2025. We'll see about that. There's Assassin's Creed Jade, the Chinese Assassin's Creed mobile game that was delayed to sometime next year. There's Assassin's Creed Hex, that's supposed to be survival horror of sorts. There's Assassin's Creed Invictus, that's multiplayer Assassin's Creed. It was compared to Fall Guys recently by an insider. And then there's tons of other projects. There was also recently Assassin's Creed 4 Remake. That's something that gaming audiences probably will be there for. But other than that, it's just, this is all Ubisoft has at their disposal at this point. This is the only certain success that they think that they can invest into, and that's what they have. Their 40 studios and 20,000 employees working on all of this. They are just running at their past and trying to hope that people are still interested in Assassin's Creed like they were back in the Ezio days and such. But also, we did see this announcement. It really wasn't that much of a shock. It was the fact that Assassin's Creed Shadows was delayed to February 2025, a loaded month in which I just don't think there's going to be much success for this game with the amount of controversy that it has faced so far. And Ubisoft did announce that they were ditching its traditional Season Pass model, and it was going to be releasing day one on Steam. Epic Games Store exclusivity no more. And yes, Gabe Newell, everybody ends up crawling back to him. Ultimately, that Steam audience is probably not going to be very receptive to these Assassin's Creed games. I would not be surprised to see negative ratings for Shadows when it does release, or any of the other games like Mirage, which is supposed to be coming in the coming weeks. But we also did see some other clarification about why the game was delayed right at the last minute, and it was because of the soft reception to Star Wars Outlaws, which aka the game sold like shit. That's what Ubisoft can't say, but that's what they really meant. And we also did see Ubisoft make some wild admissions. The CEO said, "Our goal is not to push any specific agenda," amid polarized comments circling Assassin's Creed Shadows. And look, Ubisoft is one of the most progressive companies, and in 2024, they are right there in the divisive gaming culture wars of sorts that you do not want to be there with, especially for a game like Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is their big name franchise, their big name game that cannot afford to be unsuccessful. And right now it looks like it's on the verge of probably being a massive flop for them that could truly tank the company into complete death. Now, this is also the report that came, and it's not shocking, and it is that Ubisoft, as we know, it is probably about over. And it is that Ubisoft is considering a buyout with Tencent to take the company private. The Chinese mega corporation could have a lot more control over the company's future, and that is very frightening, but just not surprising because of the Guillemot family. The report goes on to mention that the Chinese tech company and the Guillemot Brothers Limited have been speaking with advisors to help explore ways to stabilize Ubisoft and bolster its values. It says said that one of the options on the table would involve taking the company private. Talks are at an early stage. Tencent and the Guillemot family are also considering other alternatives, like maybe another company buying them, but doesn't seem very likely based on the fact that they were laughed at previously, and they're in far worse shape since then. Recently, there's been a major push by small investors to do just that. They want all these layoffs, they want many employees to be gone, and that is likely what's going to be on the horizon. And that does bring me sadness, but again, the current management at Ubisoft, they are responsible for all of this. It's even got support from at least 10% of the company's shareholders for them to go private. So look, ultimately, the Guillemot brothers probably will still be in control of this company. Tencent will have a lot more control as well. And I just don't think that this company is going to be getting better anytime soon, even if they go private. None of this is any good news in my opinion. And we did see Ubisoft confirm this report. This was just the other day. They said that they regularly review options. They call this a strategic option. And they're trying to figure out what to do. It's quite clear that what they've been doing the last couple of years, it just cannot continue this way. And Tom Henderson of Inside Gaming did give this perspective that I thought was interesting. He said it's important to stress that Tencent and the Guillemot family are rumored to be considering the buyout. The buyout would undoubtedly mean mass layoffs. And with Yves likely still in charge, who is ultimately responsible again for Ubisoft's current state, it's still not brilliant news. Everything I just said. The best cause of action would be an upper management shakeup over anything, and it's probably not happening. But I don't think Yves will let the ship sail without him in the captain's seat, which is just, it's very sad that that's the reality that we deal with for a company that does have franchises that I think could be done in so much better ways if it was in better hands. And it is important to know who Tencent actually is, and the fact that the Chinese government has major shares within the company. And as this Reuters report mentioned, it was the fact that Beijing's China moves to scoop up golden shares in tech companies, which started more than 5 years ago, have also raised alarms among foreign governments about Chinese surveillance of online data and potential intervention in private enterprises. So that is another thing that could be happening, another concern with Ubisoft if Tencent continues to get more control over this company moving forward. But what was absolutely insane was the fact that we actually saw a Ubisoft director chime into all of the outrage surrounding this company, and they had an absolute insane take in my opinion. This was specifically a monetization director at Ubisoft. I'm not going to say his name. It's already been said enough, but this individual has a job that should not exist in this gaming industry. And these monetization directors often work with psychologists to ruin these experiences, trying to get as much money out of players. And I just find it absolutely disgusting that we live in this industry and this has been normalized. But this is what this individual has said. They said that they rarely post on social media. The gaming industry is rough at this point, we all know it, but seeing how quote-unquote gamers react on social medias, wishing ill fate to companies and people alike is sad, and not only towards Ubisoft. And the thing is, this individual is neglecting to mention everything that has happened to Ubisoft the last couple of years. Even the conversation this year really hides the fact that this company has been falling down the toilet. But we'll continue. He says, even though it's always the vocal minority that express themselves on social media, I was hurt and ashamed to be a part of this community. What is even more revolting is coming on LinkedIn and seeing the same comments from people within the industry. On top of the exposing yourself as a clearly non-decent human. Oh my god. He's following the Concord talentless freaks remark. That's absolutely insane. But he said, you are affecting thousands of employees that are already impacted by all the hate despite doing their best to deliver incredible experiences. Deliver incredible experiences. I'm actually shocked he said that because there's been a laundry list of mediocrity the last number of years. If you want to talk about incredible experiences, you have to go pretty far back at this point with Ubisoft. And fun story, it's anecdotal, but I actually spoke with a CD Projekt Red developer a while ago, and they said that they had a Ubisoft developer join their team, and when that individual joined their team, they spoke about how there was just such higher expectations. They said that they felt like they were finally in the big leagues, and I think that really says a lot about Ubisoft and how the company is just not taken seriously, not just by gamers, but even by industry developers. You know, I don't like this comment also because of the fact that he's completely neglecting to mention the reason why we're here, and that is because of the Guillemot fucking family running this company into the ground. You complain about gamers bitching about stuff on social media, but if you really care about those 1,000 employees, look at the guy who's running the show, who has been making just terrible decision after terrible decision. And he said, how can you wish a company to fail simply because they do not cater to you or the product does not please you is beyond me, which is, it's a take of a company that very much used to please a lot of people with innovative game design, fresh ideas, and new franchises. It was very much quality over quantity. something that feels like it was millenniums ago at this point. We're all here on the same boat. Please, please, please stop spreading hate. We should all uplift each other instead of bringing each other down. He said this a couple of days ago. No idea what he's specifically, speaking to, but it's obviously in regards to all the outrage, all the conversation surrounding Ubisoft. And the only recent thing is the fact that Ubisoft looks like it's about to go under. And this isn't the first time we've seen Ubisoft developers making some mind-boggling remarks. We had a couple of Ubisoft developers criticizing Elden Ring a couple of years ago for its game design, being very confused by why it was successful. That was embarrassing for the company, along with a Guerrilla Games developer, but this one takes the cake, honestly. It's an example of a misguided attack. Ubisoft staff are looking for a boogeyman, and they certainly wish to bring the pitchforks for the vocal social media crowd, instead of realizing that most of the gaming audience are rejecting their games. Even critics are shrugging with boredom for most of their big releases. It's fine can't be the sentiment that is felt with almost every single game where you get put in a box. Expectations are set. And that's what has happened here. Ubisoft has spent the last number of years slowly building to this point in which casual and hardcore gamers are choosing to not spend the $70 on slop, especially at a time in which there are so many better ways to spend money for good quality entertainment in gaming. People can make arguments for why we take for granted the 7 out of 10 or 6 out of 10 samey, barely competent Ubisoft experiences, but there's only so long that strategy can play out. And I think we're now at that point. So no, none of the chaos surrounding this company can be blamed on just this last year of outrage. This is totally neglecting how this conversation really began around 2022, if not earlier. And look, this monetization director can go off all he wants, but this is the reality. This is why Ubisoft is so fucking hated, and why so many people, yes, some individuals on social media are ready to jump on their grave. Ubisoft wants you to be comfortable not owning your games. They want their subscriptions to take off. They don't want people to be enjoying their physical digital copies anymore. They want people to be stuck in those subscriptions in which they're spending money every month. That's what Ubisoft wants. That's the reality. And then their games have already been soulless enough. They wanted to chase NFTs. This was one of their big trends. They tried doing that with Ghost Recon Breakpoint, a absolutely astonishing, terrible experience. And those NFTs have not popped up since. Just an example of them chasing trends and it going absolutely nowhere. We'll see if it returns at some point. We also had, again, their games are already soulless enough, but Ubisoft was testing an AI tool that writes NPC dialogue, because that's absolutely what Ubisoft needs to make their games sound better. And then a year later, they showed off AI-powered game characters at GDC. The game world actually listens, which, again, soulless and Ubisoft, it just goes together so well. And then we have all of the cancellations, all of the disasters, all of the chaos with all of their games. We have Ubisoft chasing trends with Hyperscape. That was a battle royale which nobody cared for, and less than 2 years after it launched, it ultimately it died. We also had Ubisoft canceling another battle royale game. This was going to be Ghost Recon. It was called Frontline, and it was supposed to be a 100-player free-to-play take on the franchise, and that ultimately died in 2022 when the company realized, hey, maybe we shouldn't be investing in so many trends that are ultimately going to go nowhere. We also had Ubisoft's mobile game Tom Clancy's Elite Squad. That was supposed to be our return with Splinter Cell at one point, but that ultimately collapsed. That failed badly. And then one of Ubisoft's newer, fresher ideas was Immortals Phoenix Rising. They were working on a sequel until they weren't, and that was because of the fact that Ubisoft came to the realization that the first game didn't sell all that well, so there was no reason to pursue another in this franchise. And the thing is, Ubisoft and fresh ideas, something that gets the attention of mainstream audiences, they have been struggling so badly with this. That's why they've been resorting to just relying on Assassin's Creed and Far Cry and Tom Clancy for so long. We joke about these games, but that's all they have at this point, because their current talent cannot muster up, new franchises that catch the attention of mainstream audiences. Then we had The Crew, which servers were shut down, and it was also reportedly being revoked from Ubisoft Connect accounts. One of those things that makes people very scared about the all digital future, and Ubisoft was right at the center of all of that. We also had Ubisoft canceling The Division Heartland. This was supposed to be another free-to-play shooter, another game that it didn't make sense why it even existed in the first place. The Watch Dogs franchise crashed to the ground because of Legion, and an insider recently confirmed that the franchise is truly dead, at least in gaming. Then we had Ubisoft being disappointed by Assassin's Creed Nexus, its VR sales, and I think this is just another example of a game that I don't think many people even knew existed in the first place. We also had the announcement that Prince of Persia, one of their only good reviewed games the last couple of years, it only had 300,000 players. And I think that's, again, another major problem. Ubisoft's been trying to, revive franchises, bring in new ideas, and just mainstream audiences just don't care about it at all. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora only had under 2 million sales, another flop for a franchise that they thought was going to do numbers for them. Then we had Beyond Good and Evil 2. It surpassed Duke Nukem Forever, which was in development for 15 years. This game's been in development for 16 years, and there's no end in sight at all. We also had Skull and Bones, the realization that that game has been a massive flop for Ubisoft, having less than 1 million players total in its first couple of weeks, including free trial players. That tells you all you need to know about a game that had a lot of excitement behind it when it was first announced, because it looked like it was adapting a lot of Black Flag elements, and then ultimately it just ended up being quite pathetic. And for a pirate game, I just have no idea how they make it so soulless. We also had some other information, such as Skull and Bones' price was slashed by $25 after less than 3 weeks. Remember, the first so-called quadruple A game. And then there's even been some insider reports saying that they spent upwards of $600 to $850 million on this game. I have no idea if this is true, but the game was in development for so long. It was delayed so long, and it had some government funding as well. It wouldn't surprise me in the least. X-Defiant was supposed to be a Call of Duty competitor, and it looks like it's on the verge of being shut down. Ubisoft even admitted in recent weeks that it has fallen behind expectations for them, a remark that I feel like they've been saying with all of their franchises the last couple of years. And then we had Star Wars Outlaws. This was supposed to be their big success story in 2024 alongside Assassin's Creed Shadows, and it has been an absolute flop. Ubisoft, as we discussed earlier on in this video, said that the game had done soft sales for them. Well, what they meant by that was it sold just 1 million copies in the month since it launched. I have no idea how you botch a Star Wars open world game this badly, but Ubisoft did it. They did it with a protagonist people didn't care about, a story that people didn't care about, all the technical issues, and ultimately just the quality that we expect out of Ubisoft, which is pretty mediocre and not worth the $60, $70 that they're trying to sell these games at. And look, these are the review scores for the last number of big name games that they've published. We had Far Cry 6 a couple of years ago. I got a 76, which is mediocre. It's all right, but it was also a point in which a lot of us agreed that Far Cry needs to change. It's stagnated in terms of its quality, and people are exhausted by this formula. We also had Assassin's Creed Mirage. It was supposed to be a callback to those older Assassin's Creed games we love, and the quality just wasn't there, and critics pretty much agreed. It got a 70, which is just, it's all right. We also had Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, another franchise that they hope to bring it big, and it can be big, I guess, in movie theaters, but in the gaming sphere, it just wasn't there at all, and the quality also wasn't there. The only thing you can say about a lot of these Ubisoft games is that they have some pretty environments, but when it comes to storytelling characters, they're absolutely shit at it. And then we had Star Wars Outlaws. Top critic average of 75, with only 65% of critics recommending this experience, and that is not good enough for a game, a franchise like this. This is Ubisoft in 2024. It's easy to concentrate on all the social media buzz and all of that negativity, but we've gotten to this point because of total dysfunction from top to bottom, with no accountability from seemingly anywhere. And now the consequences approach. The company is about to crash and burn because this extensive list of failure, whether that be flop games or bad decisions, has been going on for years with no change at all. And it's unclear if that will even happen with Ubisoft going private or another company acquiring them. If anything, it could get so much worse. But again, important to reflect on how we got to this point. Anyway, what do you make of modern Ubisoft and the outrage they've faced in 2024? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.